My name is Ava, I'm 34 years old. And my mother-in-law looked me dead in the eye and said, "Take the blame for my daughter's DUI. You have a clean record. She can't go to jail." Then my husband backed her up and said, "Do it for the family." I said, "I'll handle it." Before you judge me, pause for a second. Like this video, subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by family, and comment where you're watching from. Because what I did next destroyed my marriage and exposed everyone. When I said, "I'll handle it," I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam my hand on the table. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. I said it the way you say something when you're already exhausted down to the bone, when you've learned that fighting only makes people dig their heels in deeper. I said it flat. Empty. Like there was nothing left inside me to give. And that was enough for them. My mother-in-law let out a long breath, like she'd just survived something terrible. Her shoulders dropped. Her face softened. Relief washed over her so fast it was almost visible. She reached for my hand and squeezed it like I'd just agreed to donate a kidney instead of confess to a felony. She thanked me. Over and over. Told me she knew she could count on me. Told me I was strong. Told me I was the kind of woman this family needs. My husband didn't look at me when I said it. He just nodded once. A short nod. Grateful, but distant. Like I'd just paid a debt he didn't want to acknowledge existed. He put his arm around me later, in the car, and said, "Thank you for understanding. Not thank you for sacrificing. Not thank you for risking everything. Just thank you for understanding." Understanding what, exactly? That I was disposable? That my clean record was more useful than my life? That my future was negotiable as long as his sister's wasn't? I didn't ask. I didn't say any of that out loud. I just stared out the window and watched the streetlights blur past, feeling numb in a way that scared me more than anger ever could. They thought the problem was solved. They thought I was going to make a few calls, tell a little lie, take a little hit, and everything would go back to normal. Sunday dinners. Holidays. Smiles that didn't reach the eyes. The quiet understanding that when push came to shove, I was the one who would fold. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Let me tell you about my sister-in-law. Her name is Lena, and she's 29 years old. She has never once faced the full consequences of anything she's ever done. Not because she's lucky. Not because she's misunderstood. But because her mother has spent nearly 3 decades positioning herself between Lena and reality like a human shield. Lena is the kind of person who calls herself free-spirited when what she really means is irresponsible. The kind of person who says she's finding herself every time she burns another bridge. She's charming in small doses, exhausting in large ones, and absolutely allergic to accountability. She's crashed 2 cars before this. One was the other driver's fault. The other was just bad weather. She's been fired from more jobs than I can count, always because someone else was toxic or jealous or didn't appreciate her energy. Bills mysteriously disappear when they're her responsibility. Someone else always picks them up. Usually her mother. Sometimes my husband. Occasionally me, before I learned better. Every mistake gets smoothed over. Every failure gets reframed. Every bad decision gets wrapped in excuses and tied with a bow labeled "she's just going through a hard time." And the family buys it. Every time. They protect her like she's made of glass, even as she swings a hammer at everything around her. Now contrast that with me. I pay my bills on time. I show up early. I plan. I save. I think before I act. I've built a career I'm proud of, one that required background checks, clean records, trust. I worked for years to get where I am. I followed the rules not because I'm boring, but because I understood that consequences are real. And apparently, that made me the perfect sacrifice. The call came in at 1:47 a.m. I remember the time because I just rolled over, half asleep, when my phone started buzzing on the nightstand. Not ringing. Buzzing. Over and over. That panicked kind of buzzing that tells you something is wrong before you even look at the screen. It was my mother-in-law. I sat up immediately. My heart was already racing. I answered, and before I could say hello, she was crying. Not quiet crying. Loud, gasping, dramatic crying. The kind that demands attention. "It's Lena," she said. "Something's happened." Those words hit like ice water. She told me Lena had been pulled over just after midnight. Downtown. A few blocks from a bar she definitely wasn't supposed to be driving home from. She said there'd been an accident. A minor one. A scraped bumper. A knocked-over sign. No injuries. Thank God for that. Always thank God for that part, like it somehow balances the rest. The police suspected DUI. They breathalyzed her. Her blood alcohol level was 0.14. Almost twice the legal limit. I remember gripping the edge of the bed so hard my fingers hurt. I remember thinking, this can't be happening again. Because yes, again. What they didn't tell me right away, what slipped out later in hushed tones and sideways glances, was that Lena didn't admit to driving. She told the officers someone else had been behind the wheel. That she'd been the passenger. That the driver panicked and ran after the crash. A lie. A blatant one. And because there was confusion, because it was late, because there were no witnesses willing to stick around, they couldn't charge her with DUI on the spot. They cited her, towed the car, and let her go pending investigation. She was smart, my mother-in-law said, like it was something to be proud of. Smart. That word echoed in my head all night. The next morning, the truth came out in pieces. This wasn't Lena's first DUI. It wasn't even her second. This would be her third. Which meant mandatory jail time. No deals. No warnings. No slaps on the wrist. Real consequences. The kind you can't cry your way out of. That's when the panic really set in. That's when the family meeting was called. We gathered in my mother-in-law's living room like it was a war room. Everyone tense. Everyone whispering. Lena on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, mascara smudged, eyes red. She looked small. Fragile. Exactly the way she always looks when she wants sympathy. My mother-in-law took charge immediately. She always does. She paced. She talked. She cried. She framed the narrative before anyone else could. This will ruin her life, she said. She's too young for jail. She's made mistakes, but who hasn't? I suggested a lawyer. Accountability. Facing it head-on. The room went silent. That's when the real plan came out. She looked at me. Not at her son. Not at her daughter. At me. You should say you were driving. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain couldn't process that level of audacity fast enough. She explained it like it was simple. Like it was logical. Like it was already decided. I had a clean record. No priors. A first-time DUI would mean probation. A fine. Classes. But Lena? Lena would go to jail. You can handle it, she said. You're strong. Strong enough to lie to police. Strong enough to commit perjury. Strong enough to risk my job, my future, my freedom. Strong enough to be thrown away. My husband didn't say anything at first. He stared at the floor. At his hands. Anywhere but at me. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Please, he said. Just do it for us. That was the moment something inside me cracked. I explained the consequences. Slowly. Clearly. I told them it wasn't just a ticket. It was a felony. That lying to law enforcement isn't a misunderstanding you can apologize away. That my career would be over. That everything I'd built could disappear overnight. They dismissed it. They minimized it. They told me I was exaggerating. My mother-in-law cried harder. Told me I was the only one who could save her daughter. Told me family sacrifices for each other. Told me that if I really loved my husband, I wouldn't let his sister's life be destroyed. And my husband chose her. He didn't say it outright. He didn't have to. He stood there, silent, letting his mother speak for him. Letting the implication hang in the air. Letting me understand, without words, that if someone had to be ruined, it would be me. That's when I realized my marriage was conditional. That loyalty only flowed one way. That I wasn't a partner. I was a buffer. I said, I'll handle it. And that was the last moment of peace they had. Because later that night, alone in my car, shaking, staring at the steering wheel, something clicked. My dash cam. I'd installed it years ago for insurance reasons. Front and rear. Automatic recording. Saves footage when it detects sudden stops or impacts. And Lena had borrowed my car that night. I went home. I pulled the footage. And there it was. Clear as day. Lena getting into the driver's seat. Lena driving to the bar. Lena drinking. Lena stumbling back to the car. Lena behind the wheel when the crash happened. Timestamped. GPS verified. Undeniable. I didn't feel rage when I watched it. I felt calm. Cold. Resolved. I backed it up. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then I went to the police station. I told them everything. I handed over the footage. I told them about the pressure. About the lie. About the plan to frame me. They took it very seriously. They thanked me. They said this wasn't the first time they'd seen families try to manipulate the system. They said the evidence was solid. They said charges would be filed. And then they asked where Lena would be on Sunday. Sunday dinner. Always Sunday dinner. When the knock came at the door that evening, the room froze. Lena was laughing. Relaxed. Confident. She thought she was safe. The officers stepped in. They said her name. They put her in handcuffs. My mother-in-law screamed. My husband stared at me like he'd never seen me before. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The truth was doing all the talking. Afterward, they blamed me. They accused me of betrayal. I looked them in the eye and said, I didn't betray anyone. I told the truth. I left that night. I left the house. I left the marriage. I left the role they'd assigned me. Lena went to jail. Probation followed. My mother-in-law still tells anyone who will listen that I destroyed her family. My husband and I divorced. And me? I have peace. I have my self-respect. I have my life. I don't regret it. Not for a second. Because love without accountability isn't love. It's enabling. And I didn't destroy that family. I stopped letting them destroy me.